I'm Billy S, welcome back to the channel. Today we're swimming by the ocean and avoiding the giant mechanical castle looming over us with a weirdly musically inclined Koopa as its owner, as we rank the courses of the Petal Isles from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. This is the 7th video in an 8-part series ranking the Super Mario Bros. Wonder courses, so click the playlist link in the description if you're new so you can catch up on all my previous rankings. The Petal Isles. A rather interesting series of levels to rank as we revisit this area throughout the game, so the difficulty scaling is across the charts. Combined with the Bowser's Castle stages, which are considered a part of Petal Isles in-game, and we have a whopping 20 courses on offer. A reminder that I'm a super casual 2D Mario fan, so my thoughts are purely based on my own experience with each level, what I vibe with, and nothing more. You're not getting pro speedrun strats from me, I'm sorry. So without further ado, all 20 Petal Isle courses from Super Mario Bros. Wonder ranked. And let me know your favourite Petal Isles course and your favourite Bowser course down below. Taking the bottom spot on our list is the Badge Challenge Boosting Spin Jump 1. For what is one of the most useful movement tools in the game, able to give you a bit of extra height on your jump to make those harder to reach locations that bit easier, I barely remember this challenge. I had to look up footage to even remind myself of the stage, which involves moving pipes and timing your jumps to collect the flower coins. It's satisfying to complete and feels good to speedrun, but falls into the trap of just being so similar to other badge stages. How do I differentiate this from every other new jumping tool in the game? My brain doesn't, and that's what leaves it here as our first entry. At number 19, we have the Badge Challenge Dolphin Kick 2. Just by proxy of being an underwater badge challenge, it manages to feel more unique in comparison to our previous entry. But of the two Dolphin Kick badge challenges, the second is a bit more boring. Just a timing-based challenge where you swim at the right time and avoid the moving squares to collect flower coins. There's an optional pipe you can use to exit out to the flagpole, but beyond that, I'd rather play Dolphin Kick 1, and we'll get there momentarily. At number 18, we have the Petal Isles KO Arena stage, Petal Medal. And there's a reason why this KO Arena is ranked so low in comparison to others in their respective lists. This arena only consists of 3 floors, despite being on a part of the map where most worlds connected to it have 4-floor KO arenas. And also, the enemy variety, while unique, is extremely easy. Cheep Cheep, Munchers, and Mormors. The first 2 are extremely susceptible to fireballs, and Mormors can be jumped on or elephant swatted away for an easy victory. Given you can only reach this area after doing all the Petal Isles courses, I think it just misjudged its own difficulty, and that's what ranks it low on my list. At number 17, the final Petal Isles badge challenge, it's Dolphin Kick 1. I really like this badge, and it comes in handy underwater in a pinch, giving the player a serious boost whenever they need it, and making underwater gameplay feel way less stale than past games. And the training here to earn the badge is honestly perfect. You have to chase down 3 flower coins that are being taken away by talking flowers. To catch them, you need to navigate the upcoming underwater tunnel without banging into any obstacles, and you'll slowly but surely catch up. It promotes good underwater control, and I love the idea of pursuit as a trope, and this level nails it. It's still a badge challenge, so there's only so high it could be on my rankings, but this is one I will remember. Taking our number 16 spot, we have Muncher Fields, a late-game Petal Isles course that takes place within viewing distance of Bowser's Castle. And that's actually reflected in the course itself. The Munchers are an incredibly oppressive enemy type, strong against everything except a power block, and with the castle looming in the background, it makes sense that this level would feel dangerous and precarious. This is the closest you can get to the castle until you collect all the royal seeds after all. That being said, it's not my cup of tea. Beyond the flower coin you obtain via a series of power stars leading back to the beginning of the level, the foreground background stuff just doesn't really do it for me this time around. Maybe it's the fact that I'm not a fan of the Munchers as an obstacle, or maybe I just don't think the platforming is particularly memorable. But beyond some moving pipes, I don't find too much to talk about here. Even the wonder effect isn't quite my cup of tea. The world goes dark and the scenery begins to animate, moving along with you, and you must use the hills to make your way to the Wonder Seed. It's a striking visual, but gameplay-wise, I didn't feel much agency from myself as the player, and by this point, the darken the world effect that's been used a bit got old for me. It's not a bad level, and I expect some people will really enjoy this effect. It's just not for me. Also, that sneaky third flower coin hidden right at the end of the level, I'll remember you. Next up, we have the first course of Petal Isles, Leaping Smackerel. To be honest, there's nothing bad about this course, but also nothing that stands out beyond the titular Leaping Smackerel enemies. They leap from beneath the sands to bite at what's above them, be it enemies, blocks, or you. You have to use them to clear paths and even access a pipe for a flower coin, but beyond that, this level feels like your cookie cutter starting underwater Mario level. You begin above ground, get a taste of the smackerel, then you go underwater, there's a few cheap cheats, you're swimming, it's stuff we've done before. Thank goodness for the wonder effect though, that enlarges one of the smackerels to a gigantic size, and you have to follow it into a tunnel and use its bite to reveal flower coins that you have to collect to summon a wonder seed. It's a nice game of cat and mouse, and I just appreciate that it's not a giant cheap sheep instead. But there are future underwater levels that just do a little bit more with the concept. Like our next entry, actually. Next up on our list, we have Robert Cove, the second Petal Isles course in the game. In this beautifully idyllic cove, there's a lot of underwater and above water segments to give this level some levels, which I much prefer to a purely underwater adventure. What I really enjoy about these opening Petal Isles levels is that they're designed with the Dolphin Kick badge in mind, giving you this new badge and then allowing you to test it out in levels fully designed for its capabilities. That's something many of the badges in this game fail to do, give immediate utility to their power-ups. The main enemies here are the Robirds, who will swoop down and attempt to dive into Mario when encountered, and on top of that, any coins they touch will be swept away along with them, so if you don't kill the Robirds attacking you, they'll rob you blind, hence the name. This feature doesn't really amount to much though, coins are a dime a dozen, and I find it baffling that they didn't think to put one of these 3 collectible 10 flower coins as a missable collectible via being stolen by the Robirds. It's an enemy type that isn't utilized to its fullest potential. There are also spiky sea urchins you have to avoid, as well as various jets of water from pipes looking to make traversal a bit tougher. The level's main memorable feature though is the wonder effect, where once you collect the flower, the ocean is flipped on its head, covering the top half of the screen while the bottom half is now dry land. Cheap cheeps begin choking from lack of water, and you have to navigate upwards with your newfound agua to find the wonder seed. It's a nice exploration sequence, and I like how once it ends, you're dropped down from the sky as Robirds fly up with coins you can stomp on, but overall it's a pretty tame experience. With a wonder effect that gives me more agency, that's why it ranks higher than our previous entry. But these levels still feel a bit on the generic side, especially when compared to other courses in the same world. At number 13, we have the Wiggler race course, Swimming. And here the dolphin kick is practically a requirement, as the amount of high-octane swimming you'll be doing makes it a must. Here you have to race Wiggler to the goal, and let nothing stand in your way. This course follows a flow, much like a wave crashing on an ocean. You start underwater, rise up onto land, then crash back down into the ocean, back on land, rinse and repeat until you reach the goal. Here, I actually did struggle, in the sense that Wiggler was always a few steps behind me. I was still getting used to some of the controls, and my dolphin kicks weren't always the most graceful. But it felt really fluid maneuvering through tight underwater corridors and weaving through those sea pickle enemies towards the end. The above water segments were a lot simpler, featuring note block sprints, some cliffs I totally could have jumped over with the right movement and equipment, and a whole host of flowers cheering me on. The Wiggler stages offer the right amount of change-up from a regular level, as there are no collectibles, only timing, yet don't feel as easy as a break time stage. A really refreshing experience that makes the admittedly basic underwater concept feel a little more special by comparison. Next up on our list, we have Jewel Block Cave. This is the introductory level for the new drill power-up, which will become an essential for the remaining worlds moving forwards. It's a really fluid ability that allows you to drill into the ceilings and floors of courses, allowing for a whole host of amazing shortcuts, hidden areas, and level design. Here in Jewel Block Cave though, you'll be mainly shattering the titular jewel blocks as you attempt to make your way through. Given this level is designed to introduce the drill ability, there aren't that many intense platforming segments or difficult moments, instead focusing more on the aesthetic of the glittering cavern and the usage of the new floating block enemies that slam downwards or upwards depending on their color. I had an instance of needing to unalive because I accidentally ground pounded the vine leading up to one of the flower coins, which was embarrassing, but modern problems require modern solutions. I like the third flower coin and how it emphasizes the main mechanic of the drill, showing you can go through very small gaps that will be utilized throughout the rest of the game. Nice tutorial there. But it's the Wonder Flower effect that really brings the drill to life, as one of those large slamming blocks becomes supersized, and your only means of escape are to drill down into the jewel blocks below to outrun it. I remember seeing footage and hearing that news outlets had difficulty with this sequence, but I'll be honest, I managed it first try, and I didn't struggle all that much. I was expecting to retry this sequence multiple times, but no, it was a quick one and done, satisfying to complete and the best way to utilize the drill power-up they could find. The level is hard carried by said power-up and the aesthetic, I'll be honest, but hey, number 12 ain't a bad finish. Rounding out the bottom half of our list, we have Blueard Roost. This early Petal Isles course sees the player navigating up the titular caverns of Blueard Roost, and if you're looking for some fun platforming, you are in the right place. The Blueards are able to fire their beaks in a horizontal line, and once they connect with the wall, they stretch out to create climbable platforms. The whole level becomes a challenge of climbing up each vertical room using the Blueard platforms while collecting coins as you go. Often you'll find snail shells you can use to slam into question mark blocks, which will spawn even more coins for the player to collect. But timing is everything, as eventually these platforms will despawn and the Blueards have to fire their beaks again. So you can't actually kill the Blueards. For every one you knock out, another will respawn in its place so you don't accidentally softlock yourself. Shout out to this one extremely well hidden flower coin, by the way, where you need to equip the wall jump badge to get the height needed to reach these hidden vines. If there's another way to do this with a different badge, I haven't found it, but it kept me stumped for a good while. The second half of the level introduces the bubble power-up, which the game teaches you can hit objects through walls, which is needed to collect the third flower coin and can be used to defeat the Blueards on these bounce mushrooms. The wonder effect for the level is admittedly not that exciting by comparison to the great platforming so far, as the Blueards will just spit out rainbow bubbles that you can use to bounce your way upwards to victory. I remember enjoying this sequence when I first played the level, but after seeing how many levels in this game use the special effect makes you go upwards to a Wonder Flower gimmick, it feels a little weak in comparison, even if it is technically on theme as it's bubble-based and this was the level where bubbles were introduced as a power-up. The downside of being part of a world that takes the entire game to fully complete is that comparisons will be made. Still, I think the Blueards are a great new enemy, and this level justifies their inclusion with some excellent platforming. Really hope I see more of them in the special world, since I haven't done those stages as of recording. Viewer, you found me, I'm yours. And now that I've got your attention with a niche reference, I'm trying to reach 20,000 subscribers by summer of 2024, and you, yes you, can help. Look at how many of you aren't subscribed to the channel, so be sure to parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my latest rankings. Back to the video. Starting off the upper half of our list, we have Spelunking, the second Wiggler stage of the Petal Isles, and easily one of the most brutal stages to learn on your first time through. You're gently encouraged to use the Jet Run badge, and by gently encouraged, I mean if you don't use it, you will lose. And I've gone on record stating the Jet Run badge is very much just reskinned Geometry Dash, and this stage fits the bill. Here the challenge isn't going to be beating Wiggler, it's learning and reacting to the stage with your Jet Dash ability. Some gaps you can just run over, some you'll need to run off of and then jump midway, and your speed is so fast that trying to do precision platforming is a no-go. There's a reason I lost so many lives to the first few moments of this course as I was trying to get my footing. But once the flow of the course hits, you'll find yourself instinctively jumping over dangers and letting the game take you for a spin. It does exactly what I wanted from the Jet Run badge and gives us a level designed around it that is actually pretty difficult, the only downside being you're likely to burn through quite a few lives as you learn it. But if you can beat Wiggler and make it to the goal, you will feel like a true pro. Maybe Wiggler let's not race through active magma again though, thanks bestie. At number 9, we have the Petal Isles Flying Battleship. Found after progressing from World 4, this is the second battleship level in the game, but for my money it's also the easiest of the 3, and this is because its main gimmick involves the player riding along Lakitu clouds to move through obstacles. The main threats are a whole host of my namesake, bullet bills, as well as a series of timed flamethrower obstacles, and I had a lot of fun here. The auto-scroll controls the pace of the stage, forcing you to make quick and daring moves to get through each obstacle, and they're not afraid to just spam bullet bill launchers throughout. This sequence avoiding the 5 bullet Williams so I could get myself into the screen pipe was hectic, and the flamethrower parkour felt really intuitive as well, some of the better designed platforming that really amps up the challenge. You're often more capable than you think, and while this level looks like a lot, I guarantee you won't have much trouble. The wonder effect is the usual battleship fare, and here you have to be careful with the timing as you don't want to get caught in Bowser's crosshairs while waiting for a flamethrower to switch off. And as usual, the engine room features this stage's theme of flamethrowers, which you have to avoid. It's a nice way to end the level off. I think having slept on it, this is my favorite battleship level for sure, and feels like the one that flows the best, so it handily earns its spot here at number 9. At number 8, we have the first Bowser Castle course on our list, and it's Evade the Seeker Bullet Bills. I've got to say, I think this may be the strongest set of Bowser courses we've ever had in 2D Mario, with each of them being perfectly themed with their own challenges to overcome. And they're all brilliant, but I think Seeker Bullet Bills were my least favourite of the new obstacles to deal with. These mini torpedoes will lock onto the player as they approach, turning red and firing in a singular direction. But these are Seeker missiles, as once they hit a wall, they'll stick to it and then turn to fire again in your direction. The only way to remove them is to jump on them or have them fire off into the void, and I think the setups here are absolutely genius for forcing the player to really think about how to approach them. Platforming is one thing, but I found myself getting constantly clipped by the Seeker Bullet Bills as I underestimated their accuracy. It felt almost like defusing a bomb, where I had to take down each Seeker Bullet Bill in a set order, figuring out which was the weak link and which I could bait into a bad shot. If you have Elephant Mario, the danger is mitigated somewhat as you can use your trunk to knock them away, which is very useful against the giant Seeker Bullet Williams that come out to play later in the course. That being said, the wonder effect for this sequence is a nice bit of revenge after all the cautious platforming, as you summon a goddamn Bowser boat, and get to spend the last third of the level firing cannonballs at the upcoming obstacles, destroying bullet bills, breaking through blocks, and just generally causing mayhem and destruction. It's really cathartic, and I like that even with the effect, you still have to time your shots as the cannon moves upwards and downwards like the swaying of the boat. All the while, the Bowser level course theme is bopping in the background, making me wish I could just dance to the beat, instead of worrying about deadly platforming. Seriously, this is some of the best Bowser stage music in a long time. Mario Wonder be doing wondrous things for Bowser's reputation, let me tell you. Coming in at number 7, we have the game's climax, the final battle, Bowser's Rage Stage. It was at this point that I realized, oh, music is an actual theme of the game, and not just a cute series of one-off moments from various wonder effects throughout. Bowser is literally trying to pull an Uta from One Piece film Red and literally create a captive audience of people listening to his music. And this final level can be best summed up with a mashup of all your favorite hits. Now that's what I call Mario Wonder Effects. Because all of our favorite effects make a return. Tilting screens, the dragon from the boneyard, climbable poles, anglefish flying through the air, the giant Bowser statue from the Pusher Mansion, a stampede of Bullrush, a musical medley featuring enemies from every musical wonder, including the Pumpkins, the Mimic Doors, a Spike, the Piranha Plants, King Boo's Opera. It's all here. And it creates a frenetic sense of tension that builds up to the final boss fight. So I genuinely burst out laughing when I saw the climactic final boss of Super Mario Bros. Wonder was another version of Nintendo's good old faithful, the floating head and floating hands. The actual boss battle is extremely fun, featuring a serious musical theme throughout, where to damage Bowser you have to time your jumps to the beat and slam him with musical immunity. You do this multiple times, destroying his hands, hitting the button beneath his heads, avoiding gigantic flaming piranha notes, until you reach the final phase, where a ground pound to his head ends the battle. It plays out like its own level, with phases to the fight, instances of Bowser going into the background to attack you from safety, and it completely nailed what it was going for. But once again, who at Nintendo really thought, let's take the most creative 2D Mario game ever and make all of the bosses Bowser Jr. and a floating head hand Bowser? I just want to talk. It satisfyingly climaxes the game and deserves its high placement in my eyes despite my incessant criticism, but I have a few levels I just prefer that tad bit more. Just missing out on a top 5 finish, we have the Nausea layer. This course is extremely memorable because it features the titular Nauseas, whose main goal is to consume fucking everything. They will eat all of your blocks, and then they will eat you. Oh my god! Immediately, I love the cavern nest aesthetic, like we've wandered into their den and they're scrambling to get us out. You're forced to platform fast and adapt on the fly, because taking too long and playing cautiously will have you dealing with limited platforms to jump from and even missing flower coins. The comically large teeth are terrifying, especially the red Nauseas that home in on coins throughout the area, and then you when they've got nothing else to target. Give them slightly more realistic looking textures and they could easily be a Castlevania enemy. I love how one of them is utilized to obtain a flower coin by having them eat the fake Goombas here. I'm just a big fan of the idea that this level isn't safe. You're in a hostile environment, enhanced once you collect this level's Wonder Flower and are accosted by a deadly swarm of Nauseas who will stop at nothing to kill you. Nothing except the conveniently placed power blocks in your path that stun them for a short while, of course. It's a mad dash to the Wonder Seed so you can escape this nightmare, and I never felt safe once during the chase. Extremely effective, made even more hilarious by the joke at the end of the level. You claim the Wonder Seed, you can relax, the path to the flagpole is right there, and then suddenly Nauseas begin swarming from the bottom of the screen, forcing you to sprint up to the top of the platform to get the tip of the flagpole. Caught me off guard and made a memorable last impression on me that gets this level all the way to top 6. At number 5, we have Downpour Uproar, one of the earlier Petal Isle courses that focuses on a very simple but very effective gimmick. Here, there are clouds that will periodically rain down on the player, giving you the chance to swim up them. Combine with the Dolphin Kick badge, and you have some really satisfying swimming sequences that feel really natural. It's easily the best use of water in the Petal Isles, and I'm gonna stand by that, as I'd rather have a unique water gimmick that doesn't focus entirely on being underwater. We also get some classic flower dialogue, such as, "Some say the ocean tastes like tears." That's deep, man. An aspect of this level I really enjoy is how, as you progress, the sky starts off blue but begins to darken as storm clouds gather. It's such a subtle change, but really gives the sense that there's a passage of time in this level, something I wish was utilized more in 2D Mario. The flower coins are nothing to write home about, but you know what, that's fine, because we have a brilliant Wonder Flower effect that ends the story of this level perfectly. You collect the flower and find yourself launched up into the skies. It's dark, the storm is here, and electricity crackles throughout as you float onwards and upwards. You have to avoid jolts of lightning while collecting power stars to keep yourself from taking damage. All the while, Koopas are getting blown away by the gales. Collecting the flower drops you back where you found said flower, and you then get to slide down a few more hills, hopping over enemies to reach the flagpole, the sky now sunny once more. I'll always take a simpler level that can tell a story and feel memorable over more complex levels with just a little too much going on, or who rely on overwhelming the player to be loved. That's just my personal preference, and I just hope I'm not the only person out there like this. And just missing out on our top 3, we have the final non-Bowser course on this list, More Mouthful. This course is defined by the enemies it introduces, and the Wonder Effect gimmick that works with the enemies in brilliant fashion. The Mormors are these horrifying flatfish-like creatures who unhinge their jaws and consume just about anything they can see. Goombas, shells, fireballs, power-ups, you name it, they can swallow it. And like Kirby, they can fire back at you if you try to projectile them. Some stomps to the head will silence them for good, but the visuals alone as they consume are truly something else. To be honest, aside from their ever-looming gobs, the level is super standard and would be middle of the pack if it wasn't for the sheer horror of the Wonder Flower. You see, for this course's effect, you are turned into a helpless Goomba, and suddenly we're in a horror game. The Mormors are hungry for blood, and you have to spend the second half of the course hiding behind trees and platforming out of the Mormors' reach to avoid being eaten. It's truly the Metal Gear Solid experience that Mario has sorely needed. It's as you're walking up this hill and you see 2 snoozing Goombas while a Mormor stalks towards them. It's dark as fuck, and highlights how vulnerable you are as the player. It doesn't help that on top of the Mormors, you also have a flower eyeing you up for dinner, only for him to heel turn and wonder if that Goomba made it once the world changes back. I know your evil secret, flower. I know. It's one of the most memorable sequences in the game, and for good reason, and helps elevate the Mormors to iconic enemy status, and makes their course one of the game's very best. It's only Bowser levels from here on out, and taking the bronze, we have Knucklefest Bowser's Blazing Beats. The main obstacles are these giant fiery knuckles that slam down in a set rhythm, and the knuckle bills, which home in on the player but can be jumped on to set them straight. The first half of the level is clearly designed to teach you the mechanics in a semi-safe environment, including the introduction of these pump platforms you can jump on to boost them forwards, and overall it feels really satisfying to make headway here. But Knucklefest is a parody on musical festivals everywhere, so the true level begins once you obtain the Wonder Flower. Your character will strike a dramatic cool pose, and in the case of Elephant Mario, show that dummy thick booty to the world, before you're whisked into a timing-based platforming level similar to the Ninja course from World 4. The dangers come with the beat, so you can always avoid the fiery knuckles below, enemies fire out of cannons on the beat too, and while you can certainly get hit by them, if you take your time you will be okay. My one issue, and it's a small one, is the switch to a vertical shaft near the end of the segment, as my first time through, it completely caught me off guard and I genuinely couldn't react in time to jump up before the poison below rose up to hit me. Felt like one of those you have to suffer once to know how to react next time obstacles, and I feel like in a 2D platformer that's a bit of a no-no. Still, it's the one flaw in an otherwise brilliant level with a heavy platforming focus and some killer music. But my 2 favorite Petal Isles courses happen to have no flaws, at least in my opinion, so this one takes our number 3 spot. In second place, we have Missile Meg Mayhem, proof that this game's Bowser levels kick ass, and they started us off strong. We're introduced to a new sub-form of the animated enemy weapon category, Missile Meg, and you have to ride them across the screen collecting flower coins as you go. Luckily, they're long enough that you've got a lot of grace to position yourself correctly. It doesn't ask too much of the player, which I appreciate, but sets up the Bowser stages wonderfully with their cinematic approach to their levels. It's reminiscent, honestly, of the Dr. Wily stages from the Mega Man series. The Missile Megs aren't completely safe though, as once you land on them, they slowly begin to drift out of the sky, and you actually need to use this mechanic to get the second flower coin. Smart stuff, developers. And to top off the great platforming design, we have one of the best wonder effects in the game as you're whisked away on a barrage of Missile Megs, shooting out colored smoke trails as you ride high into the sky. Then you land and have to make your way across a platform while Megs try to ram into you, followed by a vertical ascent with some timed jumps leading to the final Wonder Seed. I can't fault the sequence, either from a cinematic perspective or a gameplay perspective. I love when you're able to just let the game whisk you away, go with the flow, but letting the player keep their agency in terms of gameplay. You can still mess up here, but you're likely not to if you're in the game's rhythm. And of course, you top off the level with a ride on Meg to the flagpole. Nice touch, brilliant level. And if it weren't for my own personal bias, it would be my #1 course in Petal Isles, but... Taking the gold medal for the Petal Isles, we have the High Voltage Gauntlet from Bowser's Castle. While other stages throughout the Petal Isles have a fun gimmick or a fun enemy, I feel like the High Voltage Gauntlet absolutely leans into both with what I consider to be an exceptionally fun course to navigate. Dodging the electric lasers, avoiding supercharged enemies, trying to spot hidden flower coins as you dodge your way through obstacles, it just works so well. I think the best way to describe this stage, and why I love it so much, is that it feels like a Mega Man Robot Master stage that was dropped into Super Mario. You can't tell me this doesn't bring memories of Elecman or Fuseman stages with the electricity, the strong aesthetic theming, and the way it goes full 100% in. They clearly wanted more players to see the animation of Mario getting electrocuted because they put a ton of work into it. It's short, sweet, yet almost tricks you into leaving early if you use the exit pipe to the flagpole. I luckily grabbed a checkpoint indoors before checking the pipe so I could kill myself and respawn, and it's so worth it because this stage's wonder effect is a nostalgia punch to the gut, as you're enveloped with a conductive sheen and suddenly the electricity doesn't harm you. Then you hear the music, and it all clicks. You have just activated the Metal Mario ability, and the classic N64 theme plays in the background as you make your way through the gauntlet, using the electricity to light up the room around you, as if you don't stay charged up, you will be lost in the darkness. It's not an overly showy wonder effect, it's a practical effect that gives you this catharsis as you traverse the room you had been carefully tiptoeing through moments before. It's a really satisfying sequence and caps off this level beautifully. Now I want to play the Mega Man games again, fuck. And that's my list. Which levels did you enjoy from the Petal Isles, and what were your thoughts on the Bowser stages this time around? Let me know down below, and tune in next time as we tackle the final set of courses in this game's special world. So parry that subscribe button to stay up to date on all my future releases, including that video on Sunday. My social links are on screen now, feel free to follow where you feel comfortable. I recommend my Twitter, my Blue Sky, or my Discord, whatever feels comfortable for you. Thank you very much to my patrons for supporting me for yet another month. You guys are amazing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Adios.